for 3 weeks, I guess. You guys have missed me. We just kind of catch everybody up for where we're at. We, finals are over, so we're just now getting into the preparation for the game. Yesterday was our first day that we presented Syracuse to them. Had a good 2 weeks of getting guys regrouped and refocused on getting through with the school aspect of things, and probably had, I think, 4 or 5 practices, did a lot of recruiting. Obviously the coaches were out on the road for the majority of the time since the Kansas game ended. So now we kind of regroup. We'll be in here all week with nothing to do but football stuff. So we will start preparing for Syracuse over the course of the next 5 days. We'll let them go home on the 21st so they can spend 4 or 5 days at home for Christmas, and then we will meet everybody up in New York on the night of the 25th. Have about 3 or 4 practices there before we play the game. We're excited about the game. I think there's obviously some unfinished business from not only this season, this 2012 group. 8-5 is a heck of a lot different than 7-6. Much like we ended the Kansas game playing for the seniors. Those guys have been through a lot. Respect a lot of the things that those guys have done. Got some pretty good football players in that group, to the point to where we want to send them out on top. With 8 games sounds a lot better than the 7-6 group. So one announcement is Stedman will be entering the draft. He made that announcement a couple of days ago. We talked about it, and we're going to treat him like one of the seniors. The truth of the matter is he came in with a lot of them. He came in with Gino. He came in with Tavon. Was forced to redshirt that first year, or probably wouldn't have, which means he would have been a senior at this point anyway. So I support him fully. Have had juniors in the past as receivers, come out. If you put 2 good years together as a receiver and you're an underclassman, then you got a chance to do some good things at the next level, and that's what they look for. So he'll be treated as a senior going forth into the bowl game, and we'll play his last game as a Mountaineer up in New York. So support him. He'll do great. He'll be a great pro. So and then. But with Syracuse, obviously some unfinished business with them as well. We didn't play well last year when we went up there, and I do think that was a turning point with Gino, as far as a lot of stuff that they did defensively. Got to us a lot. Do have good players, but their scheme kind of got us a little bit. So we'll see how much improvement that we've made on specific looks. They're very much a dial up a defense. Don't know what you're going to get. Had probably 17 of their first 18 blitzes last year were different. So we got to identify that, and we got to get in the right play. And he's matured a bunch, and he's from a defensive scheme standpoint, he's going to be able to see that and make some pretty good checks. Feel confident about that. Got everybody back on offense. They're a very good offensive football team. That quarterback just keeps getting better and better. He's worked his way up to, much like Gino has, he's worked his way up to where he's going to be a top draft pick and play at the next level. So got a good running game. Got some receivers that can go. Obviously got a tight end that can catch the ball. So we've got our work cut out for us defensively to match what they do. So excited about the opportunity. Have been up. Spent 2 different times with the Yankees organization. Those guys are tremendous. The organization's tremendous. They take great care of us. It'll be a fun bowl game with some good events to be able to spend some time in New York City. I pulled our team, and I think we're at about 75% of our guys have never been to the city. So it'll be a new experience for them. It'll be a neat experience for them. The actual stadium is a pretty good venue for a football game, believe it or not. It fits in there pretty good, and it's kind of on top of you, so it gives you the feel of a pretty good atmosphere, I think. So, and I do think we'll travel well, and I do think Syracuse will travel well, which will be fun and entertaining as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Open it up to some questions.
Made a couple changes with their defensive staff. You could get into Coach Roberts a little bit, and then also the decision with Keith and Joe.
Right. I made my statement with Darren, and Darren's a great friend and is a great person and is a great football coach. He's, and we appreciate his time here, and we appreciate his effort and energy with everything that he was doing, and wish him a bunch of luck in his future endeavors. Joe DeForest is very, 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 very valuable to our coaching staff, to our football program. He wears many hats, always has. Is a tremendous football coach. Has focused a lot on the safeties, which we have two pretty good safeties that have been playing pretty good ball. So excited about what he was doing with them. He brings a bunch of experience from a recruiting standpoint, from a special teams standpoint, from an associate head coach standpoint, from a next guy in charge standpoint, and that will continue. Keith Patterson has been doing a fantastic job. He's a great defensive coordinator, has been for quite some time. Instead of having two of the guys sharing that responsibility, I think it's probably important for one guy to kind of take that lead. So he'll be doing that. It's easier for that to happen from a linebacker standpoint. He's been doing a good job of coaching our backers, but when you're coaching the backers from a defensive coordinator standpoint, you're closer to the front aspect of things, and you're closer to the back aspects of things. So he'll do a great job for us.
And just to clarify, he will be calling plays, Coach Patterson. Okay.
Who's coaching here?
Andrew McGee will now. We'll hire a guy here. Coming up after the bowl game. That's something Coach Patterson and I are talking about. Coach DeForest has given his input. We'll get the right guy in here for a variety of reasons. But Andrew's a really, really good, bright young man. I was, when I was at Oklahoma State, I watched him, and he's the leader of our FCA guys, and is a tremendous kid. Has got a bright future. Has been working pretty closely with him here since he got here, so he'll take the lead on that. And then obviously Coach DeForest, because he's in the back end, we'll spend a lot of time with those guys as well.
The timing of this is kind of unusual. You don't see coaching changes made that often between the regular season and the bowl game. Can you kind of go over your thought process there? And have you gotten everything done that you wanted to do as far as coaching changes?
Yeah, I feel good about it. Once the Kansas game was over, whatever was going to happen, there's no sense of wasting time with it. So, that's given Coach Patterson, about 2.5 weeks to sit in here and coach and teach. There's no sense in pushing the pause button, when you're going to do something at the end of the season. So, it gave us an opportunity to, just start moving forward. And it happened about 8 a.m. on Sunday after the Kansas game. So, have made progress with what the future is going to be. Have made progress with what the vision of the defense is going to look like. So we'll keep moving forward with it. I feel really good about where it's going to head. Is every single problem going to be fixed in a month? Of course not. But we're going to make progress towards what we want it to look like here a year from now.
Are there going to be noticeable changes given a short period of time?
Not much. I mean, we're in what Keith has always been is a 3-4 multiple attacking, blitzing, doing different coverages. We've been doing specific stuff like that all year. But there'll be some changes. There'll be some noticeable changes. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You can't even print them. And if people up at Syracuse, you're going to start working on it, So we've had good talks, and I like where it's headed.
Dana, you mentioned the academic side of things. Everybody get through clean?
Yeah, don't know yet, to be honest with you. I don't know. They're back there right now gathering. Today was the last day for people to post their grades, and some professors, they procrastinate, I guess. They wait till the very last minute to post. So, at the end of this day, we'll know. But right now, there's no news.
So you got to look at Syracuse yesterday for the first time. How similar are they to what they did last year, and do you feel like that familiarity is going to help you guys out?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're a dial-up of defense, a bunch of different blitzes. They get into some crazy stuff. I think we're a lot better, both from a coaching standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, from an understanding standpoint. We're a lot better now than we were last year when we played Syracuse. Right? Again, from a staff standpoint, from a player standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, we understand what we're trying to do a lot better. So, if they get into a bunch of crazy stuff, I feel like we're going to have some answers for them.
How much did you see the rest of the year what Syracuse did in that game last year and into this year at all?
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So I doubt they're going to change what they do. They're pretty good at it. They do a good job defensively. They get a lot of tackles for loss. They blitz a lot. They sack the quarterback a good bit. Glad they don't have Chandler Jones because he was tough to block. But they still do a good job with it. They get in the backfield a lot. They led the Big East in tackles for loss and right up there in sacks and do a good job of turnovers and all that. So.
Dan, would you talk a little bit about your two-year relationship with Stedman and what he's meant to you and what made him the superior athlete that he was?
Yeah, he allowed us to coach him. I'll start with that. I mean, he's be my third guy that's coming out early, but he allowed us to coach him. We bought into it. He worked hard. He gets out there and he practices hard. Developed in the weight room. So he listened and he made plays. I think his relationship with Gino, is overcame some of our newness to the program last year, so they were able to be on the same page pretty quick. He's a good football player. He's durable. He's smooth. He's got great hand-eye coordination. Be curious to see how he tests out. That's what all the NFL people are gonna want to know. We don't 40-yard dash him we don't do any of that stuff here. I mean, it's all player development and all that stuff, and a 40-yard dash isn't player development. So, it'd be curious to see how he tests out, which obviously they look at that pretty highly.
Did he come and talk to you about that in terms of seeing your opinion, or was that something he kind of came to on his own?
Yeah, a little both. I mean, he's from a family standpoint, he's got a child now. And again, I think the biggest thing is I mean, he's had a tremendous year. He's had 2 tremendous years in a row. So, him having, with Gino leaving and his relationship with Gino probably had something to do with it. He came and we talked about it. And, I didn't discourage him. I mean, it's on his mind. He kind of wanted to do it, so I don't think it would have been fair for me to try to talk him out of it. If the situation was different, if Gino would have redshirted his first year, maybe they would come back for their senior year. But I think it's time for him to go, and I support him and think that I think he'll do well. He'll represent West Virginia well here for the years to come.
You mentioned last year that the bowl prep time was the most important time of year. You saw the most progress during December of last year. You learn any lessons from that? Or you taking anything from last year that you guys can take into this year and maybe make the same kind of progress?
Yeah, it's a little different situation because of a time crunch. I mean, last year we had an extra week last year because the game was late. So we had that extra week here. We have a plan up until this week where you got to prepare and then you got to give them a break and then you convene. And once we convene in New York, it's not going to be the same situation as it was in South Florida from a weather standpoint, from a practice facility standpoint, I mean, it was very convenient for us down in Florida, which means we had more practices. We were down there for about 8 nights and had more practices where it's going to be tough to do that in New York from a travel standpoint, from a logistics standpoint. So we're not going to practice as much up there. So we won't get as many practices in. The format will be the same, just minus several practices, which is just the way it's got to be.
Dan, how many more will you get before you leave here?
We'll go 1 a day for these 5 days. You know, so we practiced Friday, Saturday, and that was all developmental. We met and lifted Sunday to introduce Syracuse.
Okay.
And then this week we will practice 5 days on Syracuse. So got 4 more this week.
Most of your fans probably haven't followed Syracuse this year, and their familiarity is probably they were kind of a modest offense, I guess, and it's much different this year. It looks like, especially with the quarterback. What do you see that's changed? And if you could describe what it was versus what it is for people.
You know, they're opening it up a little bit more. I think they trust the quarterback more. Their receiver skill is better than it was last year. You know, so a lot of the same people with a couple more. You know, but then it just looks like they opened it up a little bit more because they trust them a little bit more, I guess. They're moving the ball pretty good. They're averaging 500 and some yards or whatever it is. Their points don't add up. They're averaging 29 points a game, but their yards are pretty good. But I would assume they trust him. The quarterback, he just keeps getting better. So the better he gets, the more they allow him to do. They're very multiple. They'll still get in a 2-back tight end set a good bit and run it at you, but then they'll spread it out and they'll look like our offense. Some of them motion some people and put people in space and go high tempo at times. So.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, you got it. Appreciate it, guys.